I'm Eric Campbell in Jerusalem, and this is Foreign Correspondent. It's the peace puzzle that's confounded and defeated all comers. But what would happen if people around the world concerned about the plight of Palestinians decided to stop buying Israeli products or using Israeli services?
Comes down to the dollar at the end of the day. It really does.
Free, free Palestine!
Can a grassroots global campaign of boycotts change an intractable standoff for the better?
It's the only movement that has recently applied the right type of pressure.
Or do more harm than good?
I'm the one who loves the Palestinian people. I'm taking care of them. I'm making sure that we don't have to let them go.
Tonight, as Palestinians take their case for statehood to the UN, we go behind the boycott campaign.
Free Palestine! Good God,
30 years ago, the world was boycotting South Africa to end apartheid. Today, there's a growing push to boycott Israel to end the occupation. It's a controversial movement that often likens democratic Israel to an apartheid regime. But with the peace process at a standstill, Palestinians are looking at new ways to fight. It's a city that's sacred to Christians, Jews and Muslims, and they've all been fighting over it for centuries. Today, Daniel Birnbaum and his family can worship at Judaism's holiest site, the Wailing Wall. But it took a war and a military occupation to get them here.
To be able to celebrate the bar mitzvah at the wall is a real emotional experience for us, for the family. Very touching.
In 1967, Israel captured East Jerusalem from Jordan and restored Jewish access. It was a joyous victory for Jews around the world. And when Daniel was 7 years old, his family left New York for the Promised Land.
It's magical, especially for me. I'm a son of a Holocaust survivor, so I grew up hearing the stories of survival in the death camps, the Nazi death camps. It was always a dream for my parents to be able to live in Israel, and here they are raising not only me and my generation, but my children in Israel.
But now Daniel Birnbaum feels under threat. He owns a factory in the West Bank, part of the land Israel captured in the 1967 war. So activists are trying to boycott the business.
They want me to transfer my production to China. That's what I'm hearing from these European customers and countries. And I think that they're ignorant and they're doing it out of hate for Israel more than out of love for the Palestinians. And that's a great shame.
Under the previous owner, this factory made munitions. Now it makes carbonation devices for making soft drink at home. SodaStream sells to more than 40 countries. But wherever it goes, the boycott can follow.
Some folks, I'd say ignorant folks, believe that any product that's manufactured in the West Bank is contaminated, so to speak, and should not be manufactured or purchased.
East Jerusalem belongs to Palestinians, and that we're going to struggle and resist occupation until we achieve our capital and a two-state solution.
Cairo Arafat is one of millions of Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem living under Israeli occupation.
Free, free Palestine!
Like Daniel, she was born in the US and moved here to raise her family in what she sees as her homeland. She's glad companies like SodaStream are facing boycotts.
I think most people in Palestine support it because we believe that part of occupation is colonization, and we've been exploited all along. So we totally support that we need to boycott. Internationally, they must boycott.
From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free!
These days, it's Palestinians on the occupied West Bank who have trouble worshipping in Jerusalem. Unlike Jews, they need a permit to go there. Every week, they stage protests at Israeli security checkpoints. Today's follows the usual pattern. Boys throw stones. Soldiers respond instantly with tear gas. Within moments, we're caught in the toxic fallout. Well, I've worked all over the world, and this is the first time I've ever been tear-gassed, and it is horrible. And what is extraordinary about this is that it's not even an unusual event. It happens almost every Friday. This is what has become normal in the occupied territories.
They simply wanted to go to Jerusalem to pray, to see the Holy Land, and then they were met with tear gas, and a few people collapsed and were taken to the hospital. For 40 years now, always the same thing. That's why we're going to the UN, and we want our two-state solution.
Cairo Arafat lives in the city of Ramallah, just a 20-minute drive from Jerusalem. She hasn't been able to make that journey for years.
I think it's very difficult for people who don't live in this situation. It's very difficult to really understand the complexities of it and what the manifestations of occupation are. I mean, I can't drive 12 miles any which way without being checked, stopped, having to have a permit, being told to travel on this road, not that road.
Cairo is no relation to Yasser Arafat, the late Palestinian leader, but she's one of many trying to break the status quo. She doesn't want her daughters Tammy and Sema to spend decades more under Israeli occupation.
The Aram, all of those places, you see the wall just cutting out between homes.
And she hopes a peaceful boycott might succeed where violence failed.
I think that in the long run, we need to sever any kinds of ties that we have with Israel that they perceive that this occupier relationship has benefits from them. They need to see us as equal partners, not as in a captive market or as a group of people that they can exploit.
Most of the West Bank is now nominally self-governing under the Palestinian Authority. But the heavy hand of Israel is never far away. It may be checkpoints that block traffic for hours each day, or Israeli military commanders who decide whether houses and schools should be built or demolished.
Occupation is humiliation. There's, the whole idea of another people telling you how to live, where you can live, what you can do, it permeates every aspect of our life.
The boycott push has come from Palestinian community groups, frustrated with the failure of their leaders to achieve progress in peace talks. It's called BDS, Boycotts, Divestment and Sanctions. Its priority is to target Israeli and foreign companies operating in the West Bank. But it also supports boycotting any Israeli business, cultural group or university. In Europe, supermarket chains have been pressured to stop selling products like ahava, cosmetics made from Dead Sea mud in the West Bank. In Australia, the chain of Max Brenner chocolate stores has been targeted because its parent company gives care packages to Israeli soldiers who activists accuse of atrocities.
Free Palestine, boycott Israel. This is genocide, what Israel is doing. Expanding the settlements, it's going to stop.
What is Max Brenner doing?
Max Brenner is financially and morally supporting the Israeli Defense Forces, particularly two brigades, the Golani and the Kibati.
Free Palestine!
It's a chocolate shop. Are we making weapons in here? Are we making bombs in here? It's a chocolate shop.
At this recent protest in Sydney, they were outnumbered by counter-protesters, the two sides kept apart by dozens of police.
I'm Jewish and I don't like to see Jewish businesses boycotted. The last people that boycotted Jewish businesses were called Nazis. And if we don't stop and stand up, that's exactly what's going to happen here.
Sign us to the new Nazis! Sign us to the new Nazis! Cut back Brenner chocolate!
So far, the impact has been more symbolic than economic. But it still makes Daniel Birnbaum angry. If he were forced to close this West Bank factory, he'd have to sack 450 Palestinian workers.
It's not from love of the Palestinian people, because I'm the one who loves the Palestinian people. I'm taking care of them. I'm making sure that we don't have to let them go. And I'm very proud that we've been operating this factory despite the pressure for the boycott coming from places like Sweden and other places, mostly in Europe.
The factory is on one of 10 large Israeli industrial estates in occupied Palestinian territories. For decades, Israel offered financial incentives for businesses to come here. They rushed in to take advantage of cheap rents and to exploit cheap Palestinian labour. But Daniel Birnbaum says his company's not like that.
These workers get paid about 4.5 times more than they would get paid in the Palestinian Authority across the street, which is an unbelievable wage. They get overtime up to 245%. They get transportation. They get subsidized lunches. They get medical insurance for their family, holiday pay, a lot of benefits that they wouldn't dream of getting if they were working in the Palestinian Authority, where there is unemployment of more than 30%.
The company invited us to a banquet it threw to mark the end of the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan.